Hi, my name is Ken.
And my name is Jason.
And today we're reviewing
Agricola.
So Agricola was originally published in Europe by Lookout Games back in 2007. It was pretty much instantly a big hit and was eventually printed in America in 2008 by Z-Man Games. The word Agricola itself, I'll actually note, is the Latin word for farmer.
Agricola is a strategic resource management farming game, and it's way more fun than farming the board game should ever be. You're playing the role of a farmer in the 17th century, and you're just trying to improve your lot in life by, balancing crops, food, livestock, improvements to your home, all while trying to feed your family at harvest time. The game is won by tallying up victory points, and those are earned just by diversifying your farm and by improving it in the various areas.
So we're going to go over the components of Agricola. These here are the main boards for the game. These will be placed in the center of the table. These here are the player boards. These will be distributed to each player. These here are major improvements. These are minor improvements. And these are occupations. These are the action space cards. Here we have the number of player-dependent action spaces. These will change depending on the number of players in the game. These are the round cards. These will vary depending on the stages of the game. Then these are bagging cards. These are received when you don't have enough food. They are worth negative points at the end of the game, I should note. And then these are the game summary cards. These are important for figuring out what stages certain cards and actions come out during the run of the game, and for tallying up your points at the end. This here is the starting player token. This is given to the starting player. These are the player bits. So these here would be family members for the game. These are your fence pieces, and these are your stables. These are color-coded for each player. These three bits here are animals. These are sheep, these are cattle, and these are boar. Down here we have the resources. These four here are building resources. These are wood, this is clay, this is reed, and this is stone. These are used to build things in the game. Alternatively, these are food resources. This is grain, and these are vegetables. These are converted into food or eaten during the game. Here are the various cardboard pieces that come with Agricola. This is food. We have these little 1 tokens here, and we have a 5 times token here. These are the room tiles. You'll start off the game with wooden rooms, but you may expand from there. The room tiles are actually all double-sided, so wooden huts have clay huts on the other side, and stone rooms have plowed fields on the other side. You don't upgrade past stone, so the plowed fields are just used because they need another token for that. These are various multiplier things, so if you need to keep track of multiple things that are in higher numbers, you don't want to have a whole bunch of tokens, these are used. And these are guest tokens. On the other side are claim markers. So anything referring to guest tokens, here they are. Claim tokens, here they are. And finally, this is the scoring pad. This is used at the end of the game to tally up your scores, to see who won. So to set up the board, first you place the 4 main boards in the center of the table, and then you arrange the boards in approximately this layout here. Then you must gather up the major improvements, and sort them out in this location here. Next you must determine which deck you are going to use. The decks can be differentiated by the E, I, and K symbols in this base set here. E is the easy deck, I is the interactive deck, and K is the complex deck. For the purposes of this tutorial, we have chosen the easy deck. Once you have selected the deck, separate the deck into 2 stacks, the minor improvement and occupation stacks. Next you must sort the occupations by the number of players required to use them. For the purposes of this game, we are playing a 2-player game. Thus we are using the 1+ occupations and removing the 3+ occupations along with the 4+ occupations. Take your remaining occupations and shuffle them. Once you have shuffled the occupations, place them on the board here. Then you must shuffle the minor improvements and place them on the board over here. If you are playing with 3, 4, or 5 players, there are special action cards here that are dependent on the number of players. So this, an example, is the 5-player set of cards. If you were using these, you would place them on this side of the board, like such, until they are all down. These cards are used to make sure that in high player games, there are enough actions to go around, even at the start of the game. However, because we are only playing a 2-player game for this tutorial, we will not be using any of these. Next, you must retrieve the blue-backed round cards and separate the round cards by stage. For stage 1, take the 4 round cards associated with that stage, shuffle them, and place them face down throughout all of stage 1. You then repeat this step for stage 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now it's time to set up the supply. Set a small pile of your building resources along here, like such. Place your food resources along here, like such. Place the animals along here, like such. Next, you must separate the wood clay hut tokens from the stone plowed field tokens, like such. Place the food and the bagging cards, like such. You'll also want to place the other cardboard pieces next to the board. Like such is fine. Next, you must set up the boards for each starting player. Distribute 1 board to each player, and give each player a bag of starting player tokens. Each player begins with 2 wooden huts in the construction area on their player board. Next, deal 7 random minor improvements and 7 occupation cards. Then you must determine the starting player randomly. We've decided that I am going to be the starting player. The starting player gets 2 food and adds it to their personal supply. All other players get 3 food and add it to their personal supply. And now you are ready to play. So there are 4 phases to a round. The starting phase, you reveal the new round card. So in this case, Build Fences action is now available to all players. Next is the replenish phase. You must add resources to any of the action spaces that have an arrow going to one of the sections here. So in this case, all 4 of these sections here need to be replenished. 3 wood is placed here, 1 clay is placed here, 1 reed is placed here, and 1 food is placed here. Next is the work phase. Beginning with the starting player, each player takes turns, clockwise, placing one of their family members on an action space on the board. Only 1 family member can occupy an action space at any given time. Finally, it's the return home phase. All family members are removed from the board and returned home. I would now like to explain the occupations. On each occupation, there is the name. There are any prerequisites or costs in playing the card. So in the case of the chief, he requires 2 food to play him, in addition to whatever else you had to pay in order to put out an occupation card. There are the number of players required before this card will enter the options in the deck. And there's the deck he is from. These 2 things here mean nothing during the game. There, of course, is the text involved in it, and that's the most important part of the card. And there's also an icon at the bottom here for floating bonus points. Any cards that have this icon mean that at the end of the game, they score you extra points for variable things. Occupations give you a pretty decent chance to specialize yourself, and you can play them pretty early on during the game. They're generally pretty powerful, and you usually want to get them out as soon as possible. Next, I would like to go over the improvements. Each improvement also has a name. Most have costs, noted on this side. Some have prerequisites. You need to meet this prerequisite in order to play the card. Some are worth victory points at the end of the game, noted by this gold coin here. And some have that variable bonus points or variable victory points icon like I was noting before. There is, of course, the text involved in each card. This, again, is the most important part of the card. And some improvements will have these arrows on them. These are known as traveling cards. Once you've played this improvement, it is then passed from you to the next player, instead of just being played in front of you or discarded. At the end of each stage, there is a harvest phase. The harvest phase is split up into 3 phases. First, there is the bring in crops phase. This is done simply by taking the top resource from the top of any plowed fields that have planted resources and putting them into your supply. The remainder stay on the plowed field for future turns. Next is the feed your family step. At the harvest, you need to provide 2 food for each family member. In the case of our family members, we both have 2. Jason will have to provide 4 food to feed his family. I will also have to provide 4 food. Unfortunately, it appears I have not planned this out correctly. I only have 3 food at this point. Thus, I must take a bagging card for each food missing, in this case 1. Bagging cards are worth -3 points for each bagging card you have at the end of the game. Thus, you want to avoid gaining them at all costs. Step 3 is animal reproduction. If you have 2 of one type of animal in play, you then gain 1 more if you can hold it. I had 2 sheep, therefore I get 1 more. If I had 4 sheep, I would still only gain 1 animal, because you can only gain 1 animal of each type during this phase. You should note that it is going to take less and less time to get to each harvest. In stage 1 you have 4 rounds, stage 2 you have 3, then 2, 2, 2, and 1. So they're going to come a lot faster as the game goes on, but you're going to hopefully have more options and more people by that point. At the end of the game, use the scoring pad to tally up how many points each player had. The game is over once you've successfully completed the final harvest of the game at the end of round 14. You can use the summary card here to figure out how many victory points each player has gained based on what they have. The game encourages you to have variety, so take advantage of that. Make sure you get a little bit of everything throughout the game, even if you didn't quite specialize in one thing. You may get more points than you think. Don't forget to check your cards at the end of the game. Some are worth victory points, and some have variable bonus points. You want to make sure you take advantage of those at the end. Then, of course, naturally, the player with the highest point count is the victor.